Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is presented by Townsend Automotive in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Well, it's beach season, shrimp season, farm stand season, and ice cream season, and so you know what that means. It's road trip season. I'm out on the road sharing good eats and drinks and introducing you to the people behind them. So if you're inspired to get out here too, but your vehicle is less than inspiring, please consider purchasing your next road trip ride from Townsend Automotive. Celebrating 49 years serving West Alabama, this company has been extending its reach so that you don't even have to be in the Tuscaloosa area to purchase a car from them. Nationwide vehicle delivery service is available for Southern Fork listeners, and it's something that makes buying just the right new or certified pre-owned vehicle even easier. Visit townsendhonda.com for current inventory. Or, of course, if you're in West Alabama, stop in. Townsend Automotive always salutes local entrepreneurs, from restaurateurs to podcasters, and they welcome you to be part of a community that does the same. The day dawns humid, and the waters of Sarasota Bay seem like a glassy mirror reflecting a pale blue sky. There are the sounds of birds as well as the gentle lapping of water up against a boat, sure. But more often than not, those sounds are drowned out by the sounds of fishermen calling out to each other to set the lines as they dock, or the beeping of a refrigerated truck backing up to the loading dock, ready to receive a truckload of fish. This is just a day in the life for Karen Bell of A.P. Bell Company, a seafood wholesaler that sits on the water of the aforementioned bay in the small fishing village of Cortez, Florida. Since 1940, the Bell family has worked the docks, sorting, storing, and selling grouper and mullet, along with a variety of other seafood. In 1986, after completing college, Karen began working at the company and learning this male-dominated business alongside her father. Now 35 years in, she's a strong advocate and ambassador of the fiercely proud and independent Cortez community, including her work as a founding member of FISH, the Florida Institute for Saltwater Heritage, where she acted as the lead negotiator on the purchase of the 100-acre fish preserve east of the village. She's also the brains behind Starfish Company, the dockside restaurant that's part of the A.P. Bell complex, serving fresh catch, sea breezes, and some of the best hush puppies I've ever had. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for spending so much time with me earlier this week. I got here just in time to see, 49,000 pounds of mullet roe
being
loaded onto a container to go to the Savannah port, and then eventually where Genoa.
Correct.
Italy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Really exciting for us. We're glad to get it out of the freezer.
Yeah. You need that freezer space.
We do.
I mean, come on. Let's just go there immediately. That's the size of the lumber department at Home Depot, the freezer.
It's pretty large. I think it's maybe 200 foot by 100 foot. And I think there's 3 or 4 racks high.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a substantial area to keep frozen product. It doesn't really freeze fish. It holds them frozen. We have a blast freezer to actually freeze the cartons.
Yeah. Now, are you the person that knows everything that's in the freezer? I know listeners sometimes don't even know what's in their freezers. I can imagine. Do you have a map? An Excel spreadsheet? How do you keep up with what's in there?
There are a couple of guys who manage the freezer, and they do maintain it. It is actually a chart, but it's built on Excel, and you can search by product item, by the name of it. And then they also do a running total for me of how many pallets of each size and item that we have. And I, without that, am a little bit lost. Now, my dad used to be able to actually know in his head what was there. He didn't know exactly where it was in there.
Right.
But he kind of had a better grasp, but I'm not capable of that. I rely on them telling me and keeping me abreast of what's available in the freezer.
Well, your dad was so ingenious. I mean, we're sitting here in Ground Zero, Cortez, Florida, upstairs at the Starfish Company. And my feet are in one of my favorite places in the world, Cortez, Florida. And I'm so happy to be back here. And it's a working fishing village. It still is to this day. And you are the center of that. And so your dad was ingenious, and he had fleets of boats, and everybody was named after the daughters. But he also did really cool things, like built an ice, like it's an ice room. It's an ice plant, really, right here on the docks, right?
Yes. And the interesting thing about my dad was he was high school educated, and then he went away to World War II, and then he fished when he came back. But I'm always kind of like so proud of him because he's a fisherman, but yet he was able to build a business that like he knew the need for ice and to increase capacity. And he knew that a giant holding freezer and blast freezer would be to our advantage. And it's a huge help because like when you'll have fish runs, seasonal runs where you'll just have a lot of production. So we have the ability to take those fish and freeze them for when the market is thinner, when there's not as many fish available, and then move them at that time. So it's kind of a win-win for the fishermen. They're able to catch more.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're able to hold them and move them out when the market so needs them.
I was asking off mic just because I did spend the morning with you a couple days ago, really going through the operation. And anybody that knows me knows how excited I was to actually do that. That is the nerd level I am. And I am now pretty close to understanding that you have your own fleet of boats. Independent fishermen also choose to sell to you. And then you act as a fish distributor, right? And are able to wholesale those worldwide.
That's correct. And it's such a cool job because not only are we selling locally, like there's a number of local restaurants that buy from us, not as many as you'd think because some don't like to fillet their own product and we don't really fillet anything wholesale. But gosh, we ship to throughout the U.S. We ship to Atlanta, to New York, Canada. We export those mullet roe we were talking about, Genoa. We had another container France, another into Spain and Taiwan. So
and they end up as delicious batarga.
Right, which is so unique and so many people don't know really what that is, but it's a caviar.
Yeah.
But it's a dried, fish eggs, basically very salty, very fishy, but delicious for those who know it and, appreciate it. But anyway, I just love what I do because, I'm first of all dealing with fishermen who are amazing. They're independent, fierce, strong-willed, but great to work with. And then the same thing, customers all over the place. So, never a boring day for sure.
I think you were telling me that when your dad was ill, that he was worried about who would take over the business. Would you be willing to talk to me a little bit about your decision to take over the helm of this? This is not only really important to your family and your family's business, but vital to the community here in Cortez?
Well, I can kind of tell you in a nutshell what happened. So I went away to college. I finished up at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton and pretty much thought I would be staying working in marketing at International Business Machines, IBM. But I called my dad one day and I said, Dad, I really, really want to come back to the west coast of Florida. I think I'd like to work at the fish house. And he tried so hard to tell me that he didn't think it was a good idea. It was a man's world. The regulations were hard. Just all these things that I think worried him that would just be difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know parents always
they want it to be easy
They
for
want
you.
something better for their child. But in my mind, this was great. And so I came back and I worked with him for 20 or 30 years and learned so much because not only was he smart, he was kind. I saw more times where people I felt took advantage of him, and he would just always rise above it. I mean, I can't tell you how many times somebody wouldn't pay something back, and yet he would still continue to work with them. Whereas I was more tough on that because I think if you owe something, you should pay it, you know.
Right,
But
right.
he just had a really good spirit and just a nice person. And so I strive to be like that because honestly, I'm not as nice as he was. I'm a little tougher, but I think maybe working with all those fishermen, right, that I just
Right.
have to be on guard a little bit, but they're great. And it's, so that was my choice to come back, and so happy I'm here because literally this is one of the most special places I've ever been to. And I'm happy to be here.
Cortez is really known for mullet and grouper. And I found out about Cortez as a place, as a culture through the Cortez Fish Festival here. Had my first Cortez hot dog, which is a mullet and a hot dog bun, and I was here. I was part of the team ever since then.
So funny.
So that festival was used to raise money, right, for the community to purchase. Was the fish sanctuary?
It's the fish preserve.
Fish preserve. I can never remember the word preserve. I keep thinking like estuary, which is birds, and then sanctuary. But
Well, the fish preserve, fish actually stands in that sense for Florida Institute for Saltwater Heritage. So we do other things aside from the fishing festival. It's the Cortez Commercial Fishing Festival. I always like to make sure I include commercial in there because it's not like all the other fishing festivals. But it funds the fish preserve. It funds we bought the old church that's here, and we use that now as a community gathering hall. Other projects just that benefit the community and the fishermen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of fun, small scale. It was held here again this year. We had a fashion show with the commercial guys.
Oh, I missed that.
Can you imagine them on a runway?
Yes,
but
dream come true. It's like the full Monty, but better.
It was fun because some of them really tried to play it up, and they kind of strutted their stuff, and some of them had no business strutting their stuff.
That's what makes it perfect.
Yeah,
right?
It was great.
Yeah,
Really
did
funny.
you play the catwalk song?
No, in
I'm too
fact,
sexy.
you know what? We threw it together so simply, but this is funny. Afterwards, we had offers from some of the commercial gear manufacturers to sponsor it next year. I think maybe they thought we needed a little help. I don't know.
Hey, take them up on it.
It was all over social media. I guess people were filming it, but the guys were awesome because, again, their personalities really, were just so obviously represented there. It was nice.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And grouper really is what that fish preserve is about. More than mullet, or is it equal?
I would say it's important for any environmental fishery any fishery out there because it's 70 acres of mangroves and 25 acres of uplands. Well, those mangroves filter water, that runs off the land. It provides habitat for all the little bitty fish, and that in turn, what is it called? The fish, well, just everything feeds on top of everything. The chain, I guess I'm thinking, I can't think of the right word, but it's funny because I give tours and I use that. But anyway, the little fish are what feed the big fish and the bigger fish and so on. So it's important to have a strong environmental safe place, haven for those little species. And so I think it supports mullet, it supports the bay, and it supports the Gulf where the grouper reef fish are found.
Let's talk for a minute about grouper because it's one of the reasons I'm here. I'm actually a big fan. Who wouldn't be that loves seafood? It's so delicious, but it's a prized fish. It's a deep water fish. And so know that more than 50% of the time when I see it on a menu, it's a lie. So how do you combat that, Karen, when you're selling this really prized product? How do you deal with that in your wholesale world?
Well, I think the wholesalers understand it better maybe than the public does, but it takes a lot to go capture those fish or harvest those fish. It's a 2 to 3, 4 man or woman crew. It's usually a 50+ foot boat. They're out for 10 or 12 days at a time. The ice holds usually 20,000 pounds. Diesel, 500-600 pounds. Diesel's $3 to $4. So I'm just saying it takes a lot of expense to get out there. And then of course they all want to be paid
50,000 pounds of ice,
20,000 pounds.
20,000
on
pounds of
average
ice
per trip for about 10 days. And one interesting point about that is often people don't know that they're out there 10 or 12 days. And they're like, well, how can they be out there without a freezer? The fish are ice packed, but they call it a Campeche packed. So they're packed gutted side down. The fish are gutted offshore, gutted side down, and then nose to tail, tail to nose, like alternating each one, and then a layer of ice, and then again another layer of fish. And the reason they do that, it's almost like freezing them because they're impacted. They have packed, ice around them, and nothing is held in the body cavity. Like, so you don't ever want a fish to lay in a vat or a box upside down because water is going to get inside where it's gutted, its belly, and potentially sour. So that's why they're able to stay out so long, take good care of their fish.
Right. Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, it's called a Campeche pack.
I know that some fishermen, because I've interviewed a lot of them over the years, they will do a flash freeze. They have freezers on the boats, especially shrimpers sometimes, just depending. So everybody's a little bit different. And then mullet is a whole thing altogether. I got good at skinning the mullet on Tuesday. I could come back and do that for a day.
We're looking for help in the fall. I'm going to call you and say, hey, come on down because we could use a little help.
Okay, I'm fine with that. You had gloves, so it's going to be a good day. As long as I have gloves and my hands don't smell like mullet for three weeks after, I'm fine with that.
I don't know if you get out of here without a little bit of that, but we could work on it. Maybe get double gloves or something.
I'll wear my chef's apron and look all fancy. Mullet is loved here, but it's not known very much in certain areas. Say, for instance, Charleston, we don't eat it that much, but North Carolina has a big mullet production. You work with fishermen up there. You told me that Georgia, the state of Georgia, has a really big mullet appetite.
That's correct. And it's interesting because typically the true Southerners, people born and bred here, like mullet. But a lot of people have the misunderstanding or they consider it trash fish. And it breaks my heart when I hear that. And I always try to correct them because they just don't know. You would not believe how many people I've brought over here and not told them what they're getting and fed them mullet. And they're just shocked because they assume it's not good when in reality, if you're a fish person, it's probably one of the best fish for a number of reasons. One, it's inexpensive compared to so many. But two, it's got those oils in it that are oh so good for you.
High in omega-3.
Yep. So really, really good for you.
Omega-3, actually.
Omega-3.
Not omega. I don't know where that came from.
But really good and easy to cook and just very flavorful. So it's my favorite. The boat gets $1 a pound versus grouper, they get $7 a pound. So you can imagine the difference in what it's sold for on the market. But I love mullet and I think it's much maligned. People need to give it a try. And obviously they need to try it either themselves or somewhere where they can really experiment with it and not be fed something that's been cooked improperly, because that makes all the difference in the world with seafood. Once you overcook seafood, you've really, really taken a lot away from it.
And for those of you out there that are flipping out right now about really good tin fish and boquerones, well, you're looking at the same family genus of fish when you're talking about mullet. And I'm going to tell you one of the best places to eat mullet is right below us at Starfish Company. And this is a place that grew out of the whole dock area organically. I don't know actually the story of how this started. I was here in the early days and there was a wooden bar, and that wooden bar is still here and things still come in paper baskets, but
well, it's funny. This place was owned by another old North Carolina Cortez family that they had come from North Carolina. And it was a retail market, very successful. And then the gentleman died who had it, and his son took it for a while, but he didn't work here. He had people running it, and it just wasn't working well. So he was being foreclosed on, unfortunately. But I was able to work with him because I couldn't have gone to an auction and buy it. But I remember telling my dad, I want it to be a little dockside restaurant. And he thought that was a terrible idea. And apparently the first two banks I spoke to also thought that was a terrible idea. So the fourth bank I went to, I didn't tell them it was going to be a restaurant. I said, I'm just going to do a retail market. They said, okay. I got an SBA loan, and then it started there. So that was in 98. And then ever since then, we had the retail market. I had it first. I worked here in the mornings. I went over to A.P. Bellfish Company in the afternoon. And then slowly I added a person. And then over the first couple of years, then I added a restaurant, kitchen equipment. So it was definitely like an endeavor of love and just slowly building it, which for me was good because I had never worked in a restaurant. I wasn't really familiar with them. But long story short, it turned out to work well.
Cash only still today. Cash only.
The
market is cash only as well.
Exactly. But I did finally cave and put in ATM in the market hallway. So because so many people do like plastic today, I'm just not a big fan of it with all the fees tacked on and everything. But anyway, so it's really a low fee on our ATM. So we literally have people coming from elsewhere to use our ATM.
Well, I'm about to use it in a little bit. It's obviously paid off because we were here on Tuesday at 11:30, and by 12:15, it was just like a mob of people. All the tables were full, and we're talking about a Tuesday in the off season. This area of Florida, this is the off season. It's summer here, but this is snowbird world, and so that's more like right before Easter and through Easter. So I have been here during season too. And
it's crazy during season. It can be 1 to 2 hours to wait for food because everything's, cooked to order. Mm-hmm. And we actually post a little notice for customers so they know, look, it's going to be 45 minutes once you order. Everything's ordered at the bar and, they're all in queue. And so sometimes you can wait in line 45 minutes. So the people who enjoy this don't mind being here. It's beautiful here to look out on that vista. The Sarasota Bay is just incredible. And so it takes a special kind of person to like it, but apparently there's enough of them to keep us really busy.
Yeah, for sure. And there's some nice cold bottled beer too.
That makes the wait a little easier.
That does. So I was thrilled to be able to spend time with you. And I've been really impressed about the focus that despite this kind of old school feel around Cortez, this is a very modern business. I mean, you're reaching out internationally and doing a lot of connecting through the Southeast with other markets and then selling worldwide. What is making you hungry? You've worked with your dad, got the business now, and you're taking it to a different place. I mean, bigger.
Well, I think I just consider myself so lucky to even be able to do this. I mean, to me, this is such an important job. I mean, we feed people. And in my mind, there's not much else that's, more important than that. So I think what makes me do what I do is just the pleasure I get from it. I say often, it's not even like I have a job because every day is different. The people I work with all over are awesome. Maybe it sounds like a little Pollyanna, but I honestly believe that most people are good and I'm surrounded by a whole lot of them. Of course, every once in a while you have a problem child or whatever, but we weed them out if we have to because life is too short, I think, to just really be miserable with what you do. And so I'm just lucky that way.
Yeah. What is one aspect of your job that meshes with a natural aspect of your personality, like a puzzle piece?
I think there's a couple of things, mainly the people. I really, really enjoy people. I get to experience so many different personalities. And it's funny though, because I do that all through work. So at home, I'm kind of a homebody. Like I don't go out a whole lot, but I get all my socialization through the fishermen or through the customers at Star. I think I drive the staff here crazy when I come down sometimes or come over and I'll just stay behind the bar or just talk with customers. But that's where I find real pleasure, just trying to make sure people are happy. I tell them here at Star, when they don't know for sure what to do when they're making a decision, try to do what's going to make that customer happy. If they always keep that in their mind, that will be the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything keeping you up at night?
Is there anything keeping me up at night? Not really. You know what? I sleep really, really well. If I was to say I was worried about anything, I would say the unhappiness in the world right now. And maybe that's not as bad as it seems, but all the anger that's out there, I guess that's a problem. You know, that obviously that probably bothers all of us, but I wish there was a way where everything wasn't so politicized and that certainly doesn't define me, that one little aspect of my life, you know, then I think that's true of the whole world. We're all made of so many different parts that, you know, represent who we are. And so I guess I wish people would be kinder. I actually started a Facebook page called Cortez Kind. I haven't posted much on it, but the whole thing, I did it around the festival. The whole thing was to kind of realize how lucky we are here. The people that are here are kind and they want to educate others about what it is they do and how important it is. So I guess that would be what I would consider maybe keeping me up at night.
There is a lot of anger.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I don't think it's an illusion. I think it's coming to the surface.
I think so. Yeah,
ways.
More so than maybe people used to try to keep it in a little bit more. I don't know. Or
we're in a time of really a lot of change, and some people deal with that and some people don't. And I'm going to be joining that Facebook page.
Okay. I need to get on it and post something.
I'll help you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you fed me really, really well. Y'all, I had blackened mullet. I've had fried mullet the whole time. I've had smoked mullet, but I had blackened mullet because that's what Karen told me was her favorite. It is now my favorite. I am on limited time here in this Manatee County, Bradenton area, Florida. But as soon as we're done with this, I'm going downstairs for more blackened mullet as a mid-afternoon snack. I don't care. I have been fed so well through Starfish and through the market over the years. I reserve this question just for Southern Fork listeners, and it is my magic picnic basket question. So with this picnic basket, I can time travel. I can go back and ask anybody to make one more bite of something that you'd want. I can cook a little bit and I can source for you. So I'd love to bring you some of your favorite things. I don't believe anymore about asking about what would be your death row meal. So instead, I want to bring you some things that bring you life. They don't have to go together. And I know as a food person, that's going to shift and change based on your experiences, the season, even probably, what you ate this week. So what can I put in that basket for you? Just let me know of a few things.
From where you live, from the area, from anywhere. This
some
magic
of your
basket can go anywhere.
Anywhere in time and anywhere, something that you would love to eat.
I really lately have been kind of yearning for some fruit. I think that might be because of the heat. It's pretty hot down here and being summer. Maybe a fruit with some cheese, some really nice cheese. I like to kind of explore cheese from different areas. Mm-hmm. So that would be nice. Botarga.
Yeah.
Only because it's difficult to make. So it'd be better for me if you made it.
Well,
I've tried before and it's just a really long process. So I do actually like if I travel, if I see it anywhere, I try what other people have dried, just to see how that is. So put some of that in your basket. It would go well with the cheese and fruit.
It would. Do you also like it on things? Like how do you like it served?
Actually, I kind of like it a lot of ways, but my favorite was when the buyer from Sardinia was here and he had like car water crackers, so really crispy, thin crackers.
Mm-hmm.
He would put a thin sliver of the sliced botarga on it and then drizzle olive oil on it.
Ooh.
Oh, and it was excellent. Really good. Oh, and throw a bottle of wine in that basket, please.
What varietal?
I think a Pinot Noir would be good.
Nice.
Or maybe even a Chardonnay, a white would be nice too.
Okay.
I'm pretty open to any wine. You can bring almost any of them. Nothing too sweet though.
Okay. Got it. Is there anything else? I mean, this is a great picnic, but we can have dessert. We can have something more substantial.
I think what we have there is a pretty good collection. I think it'd make a great picnic.
I do too, especially on this dock looking at this water. So if people want to learn more about Karen Bell and this wonderful company here in Cortez, Florida, that also includes Starfish Company that you can come and visit, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have images there as well as links so you can see the face behind the voice and learn a bit more about exactly where in the South I am right now. If you like what you hear, there are more than 325 episodes in the archives, other fishermen and other Florida content for you. And I can't wait to come back in October with my Rubbermaid gloves. And the only thing is I want to work the ice blower. Will you let me do that one day?
I will let you do that, but I will remind you, though, that if you break anything, it's minimally like $1,000 to fix everything on that goofy machine.
All right, good.
So we're going to train you well.
That sounds great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouth Full. Cortez, Florida is one of the last remaining fishing villages on Florida's Gulf Coast, and its fishing history actually goes back to Native Americans and the Spanish who first lived in and explored the area, but its modern history really started around the 1880s when a group of fishing families moved to what was then called Hunters Point. They moved there from North Carolina. A lot of their descendants still live in the village, and actually 97 of the buildings in Cortez are on the National Register of Historic Places. But it is by no means like wrapped in cotton and, feeling like a museum. It is a working commercial fishing village. So there are tractor trailers going down residential streets heading for A.P. Bell. There are a lot of fisher folk who live in the village, and you can often see what houses those are because there might be boats or parts of boats in yards and side yards of houses. And there's just a lot of fishing equipment like rigs and all kinds of pallets and things. So it's not a pristine place. It's a working place. I was really lucky to spend a lot of time in Cortez in the early 2000s, but I really enjoyed when I went on the recent trip to visit Karen and A.P. Bell. I really enjoyed stopping into the Florida Maritime Museum. It is a small museum in Cortez, and it is filled with artifacts that really tell the story, mostly focused on that 1880s time and after. And you can just see a lot of old signage and equipment, just all that maritime stuff that some people really, really get into. I especially liked the timeline of hurricanes that have hit Cortez because I actually went through one of those that was listed on that wall, and I went through it in that area. So little small town museums, I just have found great joy in them. And I would always say you maybe only hang out a half hour. It's not like the Metropolitan Museum of Art where you're going to spend, you could spend a week there. You might only spend a half hour in a small town museum, but they often give you a really good anchor for, or like I like to say, context for really what you're experiencing on the ground. I am extremely sad not to have a box actually, of smoked mullet in front of me right now after editing this episode. But I look forward to my next visit to Starfish Company. And until then, I will be right here with you next week. Thanks so much for listening.
You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you gonna eat all that?